Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and connoisseurs of the written word. Today, we will talk about a word that is extremely popular. Well, not directly this word, but a cognate word that is extremely popular um, with the youngsters of today, okay, with people today. Now, we've all heard this word holism, Holism, okay? We keep hearing this word holistic ad nauseum. You hear about holistic medicine, holistic faith healing, holistic ideologies, holistic attitudes, and so forth. So this word has become kind of almost a cliche. Now, while it may be a cliche, it's a word that is really relevant today. Let us take, for example, holistic medicine. We now realize that unless we take care of all aspects of our life, that is, the food we eat, the number of hours we sleep, the lifestyle we lead, the thoughts we think, the attitudes we have, and so on, unless we do all of these things, we're not going to be keeping very good health. Okay? It's not like there's one miracle cure, like having the right diet will automatically solve all problems. So, having good health is as much a question of what you not do as what you do. Okay, you don't do certain things, you don't indulge in certain vices. So now people have finally realized that if they want to live a long and healthy life, they do need to take a holistic attitude. So the word holistic means you're taking into consideration all aspects, all pertinent facts uh, of the situation. Okay, you don't just specialize in one particular aspect and automatically assume that the other aspects will take care of themselves. That's not true. Okay, you may have dietitians, and you may have sleep specialists who can individually advise you in their respective fields. But unless you take an input from all these people and incorporate them into your lifestyle, you're not going to lead a very felicitous life. So, this word holistic and holism has become extremely common in a variety of settings. I've just given you one example. Okay. So, there is a word, fascinatingly, that is very related to this word holistic, but which most people have not heard about. I'm fairly certain that amongst the people watching this video, 99% have never heard this word. And that word is, let us write it out, M E R E O L O G Y. The G looks a bit nutty, but bear with me. Let me correct it anyway. Mereology. Mereology. Okay. So what is, there I go again, making a mess of a perfectly perfect letter. Okay. Mereology. Now, what does this word mean? And in which way is it related to the word holism? Actually, they're very cognate terms, I mean, they're very related to each other. Mereology, the formal definition of mereology is basically a study of how the parts of a system relate to the whole, okay? And vice versa, how the whole relates to its parts. Now, holism primarily focuses on how the whole relates to its parts, whereas mereology primarily focuses on how the parts relate to the whole. Okay, so there's a subtle difference there. I mean, you could easily think the two words mean the same thing, and in a sense, they do, because very few people make these distinctions. Okay, usually when you study how the parts of a system are related to the whole, chances are you're also asking how the whole relates to its parts. So there's a good chance you're working in both directions. Okay. Now this word mereology also has an adjective form. Let's write it out. M E R E O L O G I C A L. Mereological. Mereological. So this is the adjective, and mereology is a noun. Okay, once again to repeat, the meaning of the word mereology is a study of how the parts relate to the whole. Okay, now let us take a concrete example. That way you can have a better idea how this word plays out when you use it in a sentence. Now, take for example an aeroplane. Let us say you're a specialist designing the wing of an aeroplane. Now, the aeroplane is such a large machine that has almost a million parts that no one man can design it entirely by himself. He doesn't even know the name of all those million parts. There's no man, I think, living on Earth who knows the name of all 1 million parts that go into making up an aeroplane, a modern day jumbo jet, for instance. So, when a person, nonetheless, a person who's designing the plane wing, for example, a specialist in just wing design, has to take into consideration a whole lot of other factors. How big is the aeroplane? What weight is it supposed to carry? How high it must fly? What is its length? Hmm? What are the wind speeds it is expected to encounter? What is its power? I mean, how much power the turbines generate? All those factors need to be taken into consideration before he can actually design the discrete structure called the wing. In other words, he's seeing how a part relates to the whole. Okay. Now the same argument applies for the rudder. Okay. Same thing applies for the cockpit and so on. So any part of and finally, of course, the landing gear, the all important landing gear, without which you're not going to take off or land. Okay. So in designing any one part of an aeroplane, the entire aeroplane has to be taken into consideration. The wing design specialist must know something about the other areas of the aeroplane as well. He must have some degree of expertise in other aspects of the aeroplane design before he can proceed to design the individual wing. How long the wing should be, how angled the wing should be, what is the curvature, the aerofoil curvature it must incorporate, and so forth. All these things need to be taken into consideration. So, in aeronautical engineering, and in mechanical engineering, for example, designing a car, same thing, same argument. When designing a car, mereology, the philosophy of mereology, plays an integral part. Okay, mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering and aeronautical engineering are operate on the philosophy of mereology, are mereological sciences. So now we have used the word mereological adjective also. These fields where you simply cannot uh, design things individually, but must take into consideration how that particular individual entity, discrete entity, relates to the whole, the entire system. Uh, Unless it happens, you're not going to be able to design an aeroplane that is actually going to fly or a car that is actually going to run. Okay. Now, there are other fields where you don't have to be that particular. For example, if you're doing embroidery on a dress, say the border of a dress, whoever is doing that embroidery, he may be an expert lace maker. He doesn't need to know what the rest of the dress looks like. If he's simply asked to embroider the hem of a skirt, for instance, he can go right ahead. He couldn't care less how tall that skirt is, how long the sleeves are, what is the width of the waist, and so on. His job is simply to put a border on the hemline of a skirt or a dress, and he goes right ahead. So he can be a total specialist. Okay, a total specialist. So there are fields where you can do that. Same thing with a painter. He doesn't care how a building is constructed, what is the strength of a building. Once the building has been constructed, 2 floors, 3 floors, 4 floors, he doesn't care. He's called in to paint. He just needs to know what the surface material is, and he can go ahead and do his job. So he's a specialist. He doesn't have to be a generalist. He doesn't have to operate on the philosophy of mereology. Mereology does not pertain to his field of expertise. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. The words mereology and mereological. And as I said earlier, they kind of are similar to the words holistics and holistical, or rather holistic. Um, so, but there's a slight subtle difference in holistics. As I mentioned earlier, you're more concerned about how the whole relates to the parts. Okay, but in whereas in mereology, the parts are really you study primarily how the parts are related to the whole. But really, we shouldn't split these hairs like that. I mean, chances are that if you're a holistic person, you're also going to examine how the part relates to the whole. So your chances are, if you're a holistical person, you're also a mereologically inclined person. Okay, so you'll be following both the philosophy of mereology and also holistics. Same thing with philosophy. In philosophy, it's impossible to make a statement unless you take into considerations all aspects of reality. Metaphysics is a very mereological science. Philosophy, metaphysics is subscribes to the concept of mereology. Okay, so metaphysics is mereological in its perspectives. So, like that, you can play around with these words and use them in a variety of settings, especially nowadays where everybody's talking about holistic science and holistic medicine and holistic this and holistic that. Chances are, so using this cliche word, it has become such a trite truism to say that you're taking a holistic attitude towards life. So in the future, you could tell people instead, that you're taking a mereological attitude towards life. I'm sure they'll ask you what it means, and then you could, enlighten them, with a slightly superior attitude, condescending attitude. Just kidding, but try not to be a cliche. Try not to use cliches. And holism has become such a widespread cliche that even people who used to take it seriously no longer do, simply because it has been taken up by all kinds of nebulous characters, all kinds of strange philosophers, all kinds of strange healers of diseases. Any kind of specious treatment for a particular illness is called holistic, just to give it a measure of respectability. Unfortunately, it has been grossly and egregiously misused. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'll stop with that for now. And in the next episode, we'll pick up on another word. Bye.